A lot of people who grew up in church aren't there anymore. Most of them aren't gone because they stopped believing in God. They're gone because what they were given couldn't hold up under the weight of what life actually brought them. I've been a pastor long enough to watch that happen, and I've been thinking about it a lot this week. There's a passage in the book of Revelation, a letter written to a church in a city called Laodicea, and it might be the most uncomfortable passage in the New Testament for the modern church. Not because of dramatic sin, not because of heresy or persecution, because of comfort. The city was wealthy. The church was stable. No conflict, no controversy. By every visible measure, thriving. And Jesus said he was about to spit them out of his mouth. That's a hard thing to read if you're honest about it, because the reason wasn't what they were doing wrong, it was what they'd stopped feeling. Comfort had replaced hunger. Self-sufficiency had replaced dependence. They looked at everything they had and concluded they were fine. He looked at the same picture and said, "You are wretched, poor, blind, and naked." Both statements were true at the same time. One was about the bank account. One was about the soul. Now here's where it connects to something I see every day, especially on social media, where about 83% of the people following me are between 20 and 35 years old. That generation grew up watching the church model a faith that was essentially a formula. Do these things, confess the right scriptures, give the right tithe, follow the right steps, and God delivers the right life. Blessing, abundance, everything going your way. And then real life arrived. A diagnosis, a marriage that fell apart, a job that disappeared, debt that didn't, a grief that didn't have an easy answer. And the framework they'd been handed had absolutely nothing to say to any of it. Because a theology built on abundance has no category for suffering, no room for the wilderness, no cross at the center. And when the formula stopped working, the only conclusions available were God isn't real, God doesn't care about me, or I'm the problem. That third option is the most damaging one, because it took people who were generally hungry for something real and told them their hunger was a failure. That's not a faith failure, that's malnourishment. And there's a difference between those two things. I want to say something carefully to anyone who's carried that weight. What happened to you wasn't because you were weak. It wasn't because you didn't try hard enough. It was because what you were given couldn't feed you when things got hard. A faith built entirely on blessing and abundance is not the whole gospel. It never was. The whole gospel has a cross in the middle of it and a resurrection. But the death comes first. That sequence is not incidental. That sequence is the whole point. The people I've watched come through the hardest sessions of their lives with their faith intact. They weren't the ones who were protected from suffering. They were the ones who had a theological framework that could hold it. They could say, this is meaningful. This is formation. God is still here. He hasn't left. The wilderness is not the end of the story. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before the burning bush. Elijah ran to the desert after the greatest moment of his ministry. Jesus spent 40 days there before his public work began. The wilderness in Scripture is never where you're abandoned, it's where you're prepared. I'm 77 years old. I preached through a lot of hard seasons in other people's lives and in my own. And the one thing I can tell you with confidence is this: the real thing, the whole gospel, cross and resurrection both, is strong enough to hold whatever you've been through. It was always strong enough. A lot of people were just never shown all of it. If that's your story, the door back isn't a performance. It's not a list of things to get right first. It's just a step, whenever you're ready. If any of what I said today found you somewhere you needed it, I'm glad. I have a small free community called The Next Step where I talk about these things in more depth, faith, and also what I've been building online at 77. If you want to be part of that conversation, links in the description. No pressure, just an open door. I'll see you Wednesday.